go from Dallas. This will be a touchback, so we're going to need our first snap to see the first action of this game.
What up, dog? And when the balance becomes unbearable, history shows us what happens next. People purchase new currencies and enforce resets. Now, here's where it becomes truly concerning. In the background, nations are quietly preparing for digital currency framework, a centralized system where limit the control of how money moves. Influence on expectations. It's tools to get motion. The next crisis could be the perfect excuse to roll it out for stability instead. And most people will accept it because they'll be desperate for safety. But safety without freedom is just another form of control. And control, once given away, rarely returns. That's why we must not tune out now. Because everything I'm describing connects directly to the third and the final hidden forces, the ones already shaping how humanity itself will function. And the fourth, the one I'll reveal later, is the darkest of them all. It's already unfolding, and most people are walking straight into it unprepared. See, that's the beautiful number that you take.
Offense out now to get us started. It's 1st and 10. They'll run it for the first time with Jalen Warren. Well, maybe the rest of the game is going to be headed in the proper direction, Brock, but their first play winds up going backwards. On 2nd down, Warren spins out of one side. Good little rip there. Looks like about 6. Tackle made by Trayvon Diggs. Moving quickly, trying to get set again. Rodgers going to throw here. 3rd down. He puts some juice on a deep throw down the middle. His first target doesn't lead to his first catch. 4th down coming up. So they couldn't throw for it on 3rd down, and as a result, they're headed off the field earlier than expected on their opening series.
Keeping them off the scoreboard, well, that's already a win defensively. Not letting them even cross midfield, that's the cherry on top.
All right, here's one of our game's first big risks. The offense lining up to go for it on their own side. 4th down now, Rodgers. And it's a turnover to begin their game. That's incomplete on 4th, and it's going to go over on downs.
I don't know what the punter did to hurt people's feelings, because I think the reasoning was pretty clear. They were going to go for it. There's not going to be a punter that touched the field. Not an advisable mindset now as they turn it over in their end of the field.
Yeah.
New set of downs for him at the 38. Prescott now off the play fake. His first throw is an interception. Heads are clean and pick it off. And the Steelers will set up just a little bit shy of the 40 following the tackle. Well, for their sake, partner, I sure hope the rest of their pass attempts this game go a whole lot better than that, because it is pretty clear this defense came to play.
And I can promise you this, Kate, nowhere on that opening script does the word interception ever appear. You never want to see an INT. Now they're going to have to flush it. That's the key here for this quarterback in the offense. Got to flush that mistake and press on ahead.
Rob Flack, first guy he met. No gain on that 1st down run.
It'll be this group's job watching the film to find all these plays. The ones that amount to really very little statistically, and identify what was needed to just make them a little bigger, stretch them further. Afterthought plays now, they could be the big gains of next week.
Last run only gained a yard. That means it's 2nd and 9. Working out of the gun. Here's Rodgers. And there's a man there. It's intercepted. The wrong way and has it.
It's unfolding.
And he's going to score a big 6 for Dallas.
On so many levels, Kate. Making the interception already a terrific effort by everybody involved. But to put the cherry on top, to take it all the way back to the house, it required extra effort from everybody, and they get the job done.
Extra point from Aubrey is up and good. And the Cowboys will jump out to a 7-0 lead.
because I'm going to predict the outcome. Produce higher and fire based on data patterns, not human empathy. Every system
Well, Brock, hopefully some short memories on offense as they get it right back here on the kickoff after that pick six. That's going to be taken in at the 8. And this is brought to a halt just across the 10.
And the truth is, this isn't just about it. This is a big thing.
Offensive line, here we go.
And I don't think corporations, especially, don't help decide what the
They'll start the drive with Warren. Can't slip that initial tackle. Stops made for no gain on that first down play. Working quickly here. Second down, Warren gets it again. And it's a nice little chunk here, 6 yards. Down by Savon Rebel. Offense in the hurry up here. Now Rodgers on his 3rd and short. It's another first down mistake. He's intercepted again. And the Cowboys will return this well into the red zone before he's brought down.
I think they were going to be grateful just to get the ball back, but now look at where they're getting it, Kate. It's already inside field goal range. I promise you this, they're going to be disappointed if they don't get at least 3 points off that takeaway.
All right, working from the gun to start. 1st and 10. First down, here's Dak. Makes the connection. This is Jaden Brewer. And he drives this forward to the 6.
It is so hard for these defenses. I don't envy them at all. They try to monitor where these running backs are. Shipping, are they delaying their route? It's such an underrated part of their overall passing game.
Prescott set to pass. That one connects. And he's down very close to that first, but looks like he is stopped just in time after a gain of 4. 3rd and a lone yard coming up.
Yeah, here we go! Like that play!
algorithms
Running for the marker with Williams. And he gets in. Touchdown! The Cowboys parlay the interception into points. Javonte Williams, the touchdown. For the point after, here's Aubrey.
Let's see what happens. Every great
Right down the middle, it's good. And the Cowboys drive out to an early 14-0 lead. Aubrey now to kick this one away. And it didn't look like he was seriously considering a return there, did it? So that touchback going to come into the 35.
You're not alone. People in the 60s, 70s, and 80s are playing the same thing on the every continent. I feel like the one change of limit and no one has to hire ready. This isn't just generational confusion. It's generational. The fact that the continent
the Steelers with some very good field position as they get set at 1st and 10. Turned by that pick. He's thrown again. Look at that power. Deep left side. DK Metcalf, the intended receiver. And it sets up 2nd down.
That's a pretty cool look right there. Like the kind of cover you're going to see when you play man-to-man. On that down and distance, you've got to be sharp on the outside. That DB certainly was.
Trayvon Diggs has got it. And the Cowboys finally tackled on the return after taking it all the way back to the opposing 40. Man, these guys just can't get out of their own way right now, and we both know it's only going to hurt worse as this game rolls on.
Yeah, kind of stuck in a loop right now. And I don't care what sport it is. If it's golf, if it's shooting a free throw, bat and baseball, like you grip it tight and you grip that ball tight, usually bad things follow.
New slated downs to approach here from the 40. Dak out of the pistol. Well, the pressure really got to him, but still a good play defensively as that one falls incomplete.
Just about every play in an NFL game usually has a protagonist and antagonist, a good and a bad. The good there, the courage of that wide receiver. The bad, just could not haul it in.
Back to the air, Prescott. Brought in by Jake Ferguson. And he takes it into the end zone for a Dallas touchdown. The Cowboys take a 20-zip lead.
Stretch that field. Without Chip, secure the catch, quickly become a run the check, and finally go finish that drive off and celebrate with your home boys.
For the point after, here's Aubrey.
There's something that stopped a bit of play to go.
The point after splits the uprights. And the Cowboys push their lead to 21-zip already. Aubrey now to kick this one away.
Every crisis,
He's going to field this at the 2. They get to him before he can amount to much, just beyond that 15-yard line.
It's the very committed to help itself. This is the kind of best they do. And the people, it's already done. For years, with the ability plan, that changes. And that is sort of that. But the signs and everything, they were at fault with it.
All right, Steelers to the line now. 1st and 10. Start on the ground here with Warren. He's going to get him all the way up near that 30-yard line. Brock knocked that a step or two shy of it. It's a pickup of 11. They'll bring up a Pittsburgh 1st down. Warren once more. And he's charged towards the line. It's right around 3 yards.
Probably rush hour, Kate, because there's a whole lot of traffic up the middle of the there. He ran right into some gridlock, and he can only manage a few yards at most.
And he's not going to get the first. He made it real close, though. Didn't he, Bronk? It's a gain of 5, 3rd down coming up. Moving quickly, trying to get set. Now Rodgers. He's got his man. This is Austin. And he's tackled with a 1st down yardage. And just like that, he's on the board. Not a moment too soon, partner. They needed him to start connecting as soon as possible.
Kate, they've not disguised what they want to do. The passing game has been just really prevalent. The numbers have been gold. Yeah. But finally, as you said, their first completion.
Caught just shy of the goal line. And that's a Pittsburgh touchdown. The Steelers reach pay dirt for the first time this game. It's a DK touchdown.
That's some good old-fashioned playground football. Even at the elementary school, find the fastest kid and let him run.
Chris Boswell for the point after. Extra point set right down the middle. And the Steelers get it back to a 14-point game. Now Boswell on to send this away. Here's Kevontae Turpin on the return. Only manages to get this back to the 20 before he's taken down. Dallas getting everybody set. They've got 1st and 10. Back to throw. Here's Dan. On screen here to Blue. And a nice chunk there, about 7. He's up to the 27.
These intermediate gains, that's the wheelhouse for these two to connect on. Start the series off well. It sure keeps the defense on its toes in case they try to load up and just simply cover the receivers.
Back to the air here. Defender arrives right as the ball does, and the hit knocks it free. Incomplete.
I think that was a throw, Kate, that just came a little bit too late. What it did is it gave that defense time to come up and deliver a pop and knock the ball loose before he could secure it fully.
Prescott now to throw on third down. That is caught. He's got legs. And he will have this across that 40-yard line before they manage to stop it. That's 16 on the pickup. And it'll be first down, Dallas. Double coverage deal breaker for a lot of QBs, Brock, but less so when it's a target you trust.
You know what's interesting, Kate? Even 20-something years ago, watching Marvin Harrison and Peyton Manning work, every defense would go into every game trying to double cover him, but yet those two, like we just saw right there, just got it done regardless.
He's going to be hit and sent out after about a gain of 1, maybe 2 yards there.
It may not look like much on the stat sheet. This is kind of good on good. An offense gets completion, not going backwards, and the defense, well, they rallied, they pursued, and kept that screen to a minimal gain.
Taking a chance to the end zone. And the defender redirects that deep shot. Nicely done. Incomplete. Thought he had a touchdown there. And that brings up third down. Didn't see a whole lot of room to fit that pass in, Brock. Throwing into double coverage. How's Coach going to feel about that one?
Yeah, that's a no-no. I experienced that as a player and now as a coach. Please don't do that.
Comes up empty on that one. And now a fourth down, staring right at him.
Okay, we've seen this running back pretty busy here early on in the passing game, and not just with checkdowns. You can tell this is going to be part of the game plan, and I don't think one incompletion here to him is going to deter that effort.
Snap is off. It's Prescott. This one's real and downfield by Ferguson. That big fourth down call is how we close out our first quarter. It's the Cowboys out in front. Back to AT&T Stadium in just a moment.
Already starting. People need to wake up.
Second quarter all set to begin, and it'll be Cowboys football. They're looking at yet another 1st and 10 on this drive. Another throw for Prescott. Down the field, he's got Lamb. The Cowboys take their lead to a 3-score finish. C.D. Lamb with the touchdown. Not much to say other than the fact that this offense on point. They're just clicking today.
Just rolling. I mean, this is clinic. This is what I call teaching tape. Being well prepared, and more importantly, going out there and executing at a high level.
Find this message. Subscribe and turn on the bell icon because the next truth might be the most important message of your lifetime. Something unstoppable has begun, and every country will feel it within months. Just remember, awareness is still power, and that power still belongs to you. Check my playlist for more videos. And if people have no idea what's going to happen to their phones, and I don't say that lightly, something is unfolding right now.
Aubrey good on the point after. And the Cowboys stretch their lead to 21.
Not everybody who's close to us, but it's happening. I want you to listen to this.
Aubrey now to kick this one away. And this is taken in the end zone, but not returned, so they'll bring this out to the 35.
Listen, the fourth really is the Dawg. And saving that for us. It's something we have to
Field
do.
position as the Steelers come up to it, 1st and 10. A give left side to Warren. They're all the way across midfield before he's brought down. Offense up to the line fans.
When people start seeing what's really happening,
He could have a free play here. Sends this to the end zone. And he's got it in the end zone for a touchdown. But now all eyes going to turn to those officials. You got to see if this flag is going to take it away.
Probably in the comments, I'm going to see how many of you are really ready to go on that game.
Boswell to add the PAT. Right down the middle, it's good. And the Steelers get it back to a 14-point game.
Identification center that red on the front, that migration, they're not accidental, they're engineered to do react, not play. You think you're choosing to the field. Something might say,
now Boswell on to send this away.
But the truth of this, you're probably going to just
return starts from the goal line. And that's going to send them up just beyond their own 20.
Every skill you hesitate. That data is recorded the algorithm is going to just a few seconds.
Cowboys just about set. Here comes 1st and 10.
When they control what holds their focus, they begin to control
They'll start the drive with Blue. And he stops quickly here. 2 yards on the play. We've got 2nd and 8.
You know, running the ball in the NFL is hard, and that play pretty indicative of it. Here's the key, though. At the end of the game, those type of plays got to be in the minority, and the majority have got to do some damage.
Now Deck to throw. This is caught by Blue. And he's taken down just a couple of yards shy of the 40. Give him 13 on that play. That's good for the Cowboys. 1st down.
And I can promise you, you go back and look at the most efficient offenses in the NFL over the last couple decades, one thing will resonate. You've got to be able to attack the middle of the field. It's great to do it with receivers. It's awesome with tight ends. But when you get that influence from your running backs, man, they become a dangerous offense to stop.
Finds a seam down the middle. This is going to be down to about the opposing 36 for their next snap. It's a gain of 27 yards to move the chains.
This entire play, Kate, depends on how well he can separate from his man. You get man-to-man coverage, it's really about 2 things. Separation and trust. Because QBs want to throw before he breaks. That's the trust. And then they got to believe that that separation can create the big play down the field.
First down, ball at the 36.
Derek
off the play fake. Great defensive play, jarred loose, incomplete.
The defender's not going to be thrilled the catch was almost made on his watch, but more importantly, he breaks it up. Gives him a chance to do a little jawing after the play. Lets the other guy know he roughed him up and cost him that catch.
What is the same price that connects with the world?
There's 2nd and 10 now from the 36.
The second is
That thrown again. That one falls to the turf. Couldn't hang on. It's incomplete.
I'm not sure if he was hearing footsteps or just had a surprise break in concentration. It's so unusual to see one dropped unless there's a hit involved.
So after that prior incompletion, it's 3rd down. Shotgun snap, he'll get to Blue. He hits a wall, stops at a yard. That's going to bring up 4th down. Now Brandon Aubrey will try to knock it through for the Cowboys. Needs a good amount here, too. 51 yards away. And this kick is good. He needed to get all of it there, and he did. And that makes this a 3-score game.
A lot of them may make it look automatic, but you get this deep, and those field goals are far from a certainty. It took all his concentration, every bit of his strength, to send that puppy through.
Aubrey now to kick this one away.
Story. It almost feels like connection.
Fields this one at the 3. He's brought down inside the 20 on an uneventful effort.
Because the difference thing is this. The design of your photo will put in function, not intimacy. It's supposed to make you participate.
Offense into the shotgun set as they line this up. 1st and 10. Rodgers for the gun. And they pick him off again. Trayvon Diggs has got it. And he's going to score a pick 6 for Dallas. Partner, Chris has gotten out of hand early. That pick 6, the latest play, pushing us towards a blowout.
Yeah, everything has gone in their favor so far. You don't see a lot of blowouts in the NFL. It takes this kind of combination, right? Both in personnel and in every phase of the game.
That one right down the middle. And the Cowboys make it a 24-point ball game. A quick chance at redemption after that pick 6 as it's sent away.
That's how people can
Fielded at the 7. Finds some space. He's past the 30. So they're going to begin from the 36 as he's brought down.
standard policy for the let's go let's invest the ability to put it in the technology
The Steelers with some very good field position as they get set 1st and 10. Here's Rodgers coming back after the pick. He throws a bullet to the center of the field. He almost threw another one. Back-to-back throws now that should have been picked off, partner, as he continues making risky decisions with the football. Almost a very quick drive, but the drop kick gives him new life. This is 2nd down. Off the play fake. Here's Rodgers. Gets it downfield on target to Metcalf. And they get this down to the 44 before he stops. Trying an inside give to Ward. Really good for a couple. It's 2nd down. A dose of the hurry-up offense here. To throw, Rodgers. This is Metcalf working that right side. They're going to get just inside that red zone on the big play down to the 19. It's a 23-yard pickup on the play. And that's the Steelers' 1st down. So the hurry up here. 1st down throw here by Rodgers. That one is incomplete. Couldn't hang on through the contact. This is a guy who's used to embracing contact, Brock. Usually makes catches in spite of it, but I guess it's tough for anybody to make a play every time.
Yeah, I think these tight ends today, Kate, spend as much time in the old ice bath as just about anybody. And when you don't make that catch and you take the contact, well, that stings like the first seconds in the ice.
We're to the 2-minute warning from AT&T. The Steelers pushing for a late spark before halftime.
And the longer it continues,
digging deep in the playbook here, and this is 3rd and 11.
Epidemic of lung disease.
Play fake. Here's Rodgers. Again, it looks like a pick, but they drop it. A chance to steal it away in the end zone. Just can't finish the play.
Well, that's not the uniform you want to see almost bringing it in. They are so fortunate to have another shot down here after the near pick.
Facing 4th down, the Steelers opting for the field goal. Chris Boswell out to do the honors. Ball on the left hash, 37 yards out. Boswell able to knock it through. That lowers the lead to 21.
You always feel like you leave a few points on the field when you kick it from here. But they don't wind up empty-handed on the track. And the kicker gets to pad his stats a little bit. High percentage maybe.
And if the attention might get
now Boswell on to send this away.
If you're apart, this next course, if you get
Turpin with a return.
Showing
a little burst so far. And they'll start this drive in good position, a little shy of the 40.
The one who thinks of the third right now,
Line come the Cowboys. Good starting spot here. 1st and 10. 1st down. Here's Dak. Has him over to the hitter. And he'll
Sometimes when you're just looking to move it forward, get some small yards on it, throw the quarterback's best friend security blanket. When it's a big old tight end, that's an extra bonus.
Offensive line, this is 2nd and 4.
What's really happening is that the memory brain of that.
Dak now from the gun. This is complete. Jalen's over.
We stopped remembering because a device is going to remember for us. And while it sounds harmless, psychologists and neuroscientists are ready to see
such a large amount of body control when you throw it on the move. You got to be able to get the same accuracy you would if your feet are set. Sure takes a lot of repetition to make it look easy.
Throwing on first is Prescott. This time they're going to get to him before he can get that pass away as he goes down. The Cowboys signaling for their first time out. They'll have 2 left to work with before halftime.
Think about it. Every time you rely on your phone to think for you, your brain says, okay, I don't need to look at it anymore. That's not the memory brain effect.
Expect the defense to be coming again here after that sack. It is 2nd and 16. To throw is Prescott. Setting up the running back screen. Small gain down to the 46. Deshaun Elliott with that tackle. So the Steelers calling their first time out. They'll have 2 left to work with before halftime. Let's see what they went with. 3rd down. Here he goes, 3rd and long. Screen here for Williams. And he's taken down at the 30. 3rd and 15. You don't see many of those picked up, partner, but they found a way.
This dude just simply got a nose for the marker no matter how they get him the ball, Kate. Hand it to him, and he sniffed out that first down. Get it to him on a screen, and it's no different. He surges ahead and keeps this drive moving.
He's pushed straight ahead, and that's maybe a yard at most. Old Holcomb there on the stop.
I've talked to running backs over the years, Kate, the transition from the college game to the pro game. They'll tell you, there's just times in the NFL you got to run into darkness. You run into a lot of bodies. Perfect example of that in the first down play.
Off the play fake, it's Prescott. And this falls incomplete with just 2 seconds remaining. LeBron, this substantial deficit sure hasn't toned the edge that this defense is playing with, huh? If anything, feels like they might be getting more aggressive, looking to make some sort of impact play.
And that's because turnovers are really the name of the game for this defense at this point, Kate. That aggressiveness.
And forget the field goal. Very creative zone. This first half on the high note.
Notice the people in itself. Don't misunderstand it.
Somebody, or you can use that big body to try to win a one-on-one matchup. Whatever way you go about it, this is the type of upside this route can provide.
For the point after, here's Aubrey.
It's something millions of people right now as you listen to this.
And the kick is good, so they add 7 to their lead on the final play of our first half. That's halftime of this contest. We'll join both teams in taking a short break. More of the NFL on EA Sports in just a moment. Now Boswell on to send this away.
Remember the 31-day daily time touchdown I told you about earlier?
Turpin with a return.
And
in the end, he's able to get it to what used to be a touchback. Gets at the 25-yard line.
Someday, Steve, listen to this.
First call here coming from the shotgun. Play action, Prescott. Finds him on the crossing route. And this one gets to the 33-yard line before it's stopped.
You know, they they say, never go broke taking a profit. Just find that completion. It may not be a Benjamin, but even those little dollar bills start to add up.
Prescott now off the play fake. And he's down and we get this up to the 41. Give him 8 yards on the play. And that's good for a Cowboys first down.
It sure seems like he knew exactly where he was going with that before the snap. That's a pre-snap decision that led to a post-snap first down.
Here's Prescott, first and 10. And screen here to Blue. And he works it forward to the 43-yard line. Peyton Wilson getting there for the stop.
Some certainly do it better than others, Kate, but every running back in the league today has got to do just that. You cannot be a one-dimensional back in the league anymore. You can't. You got to be able to handle your business, both toting the ball as a runner, and really importantly as a check down on short throws.
He's been a frequent target throughout this game, bro. We've seen that coverage tighten up a little bit more on him every time the ball's thrown his way.
Well, hasn't taken him off the board completely. He's still beating them for some catches, but that heightened focus defensively does lead to moments like that one where what would normally be a catch falls incomplete.
Screen to the running back. And he pushes this down to the 42 before going down. The end result there, 15 yards and a first.
With that down the distance, this group was pretty confident the screen would get him enough yards for the first, and it did. So long as it keeps working like that, I bet you it'll be a go-to play for them when they need it the next time.
Prescott to throw once more. And beams one deep right side. And oh, someone stepped in. It's intercepted. David Ramsey comes up with it. And the Steelers get it back up close to their 40 as he's finally tracked down after that return.
The less we interact with ourselves, that's the hidden danger. Because the overall brain doesn't just weaken your focus, it rewires how your brain handles truth. When information becomes endless, your ability to distinguish what's real from what's manipulative doesn't go. That's how control begins, not through force, but through fatigue. A tired brain doesn't resist. It scrolls. A distracted brain doesn't question. It accepts. And that's why this message matters now more than ever. Do you feel it? That constant noise inside your head that to refresh, to scroll even when you don't want to. Drop I feel it in the comments if you've noticed that pull taking over your thoughts lately. Because millions of people are feeling it too, and most don't even realize it's not their fault. It's design, it's data, it's dependency, and it's happening quietly and visibly. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you had a clear conversation without looking at a screen? When was the last time you felt bored and stayed with that boredom long enough to have a new idea? Most people can't remember, because the constant grip of stimulation has replaced the deep well of thought. And when thought declines, creativity...
Maybe a little rattled after that near interception. Let's see how he plays this on 3rd and long. 3rd and long for him here. Just got it away before the hit, but it doesn't matter. It's incomplete. 4th down coming up.
People whose focus on the page...
This offense like 3 and outs, Kate, but you really don't like them on 3rd down when you throw into tight coverage like that. Got to manufacture a better look.
Attention, control behavior. That's the real power no one talks about.
On 4th down, it's Corliss Waitman on for the Steelers to punt this away. And this somehow is only going to be our first punt of the game.
Because time is running out for people to
That's taken at the 15. And the coverage team is there as he fields it, so almost nothing on that return before he stopped. All right, working from the gun to start. It's 1st and 10.
Protecting your timeline is your most valuable asset because it's
not deterred by that pick. He's throwing again. Through midfield. Finds a seam down the middle.
Build your minds and yours.
And he takes it into the end zone for a Dallas touchdown. The Cowboys piling onto the scoreboard yet again.
Allowed your mind to come when it's finally allowed to come together.
That score was less about the throw, although it was good, partner, but it was more about getting it to somebody who knew exactly what to do with it.
Okay, it's a good thing the touchdown shows up on both their stat sheets, because sometimes it's quarterback who delivers, and sometimes it's the effort after the catch that really makes the magic happen.
That one splits the uprights. And the Cowboys
In the next few
continue
years,
piling
as
onto
devices
this
become
lead.
more intelligent and more personalized, your phone will know more about your mind than you do. It will predict what you want, when you want it, and how long it should hold your attention. And if you don't learn to set the boundaries now, those predictions will start shaping your choices. That's the silent line we're crossing when technology stops serving humanity and starts guiding it. That's why this message matters. Because by the time most people realize what's happening, the drain won't just be cognitive, it will be cultural. This isn't fear, this is fact. And that's why you can't ignore it. Because this isn't about your phone anymore, it's about your future. And that's why I'm asking you, stay aware, stay informed, and stay connected here. Because what I'm about to share in my next message will go even deeper.
Aubrey now to kick this one away. And he mishit this one badly. It's out of bounds short of the 40, and they're going to take over at that spot.
What's next? Because this time it's
First and 10 from the 41. Putting the tight end in motion. First down. Here's Rodgers. Defender arrives right as the ball does, and the hit knocks it free. Incomplete. He was looking DK Metcalf's way there. And now they face second down.
See the pass, time up your hit, and jar that ball loose. Not a lot of players are hanging on to a well-placed hit like that one.
No luck on first down. Here's second and 10. From the shotgun, here's Rodgers. Caught into the hands of Freiermuth. It's a race down the right side. And he's into the end zone. Touchdown, Pittsburgh. The Steelers put at least a tiny dent into that lead. Pat Freiermuth, the touchdown. And that right there, Brock, is a touchdown I think our fellow broadcaster Greg Olsen would be proud of. A big strike to the tight end that I don't think a lot of receivers could have pulled off and make it look as easy.
You know, a lot of times you're splitting hairs talking about the differences between tight ends and receivers at this level, because a lot of those guys, they work the same route tree and they move with the football, well, just like their receiver teammates. And they can score some lengthy touchdowns too, just like he showed off.
Now Boswell on to send this away. Turpin with a return. This makes it up to the 25.
Trump just announced between Israel and Hamas, threatened in the Bible 2,500 years ago. The described as agreement with everlasting peace are the exact same words that Scripture warns us about before the final destruction.
Offense into the shotgun set as they line this up. First and 10.
Chosen people actively
Play action now for Prescott. Finds him over the middle. And he'll go down after fighting his way to the 32.
Quarterback never stared down the receiver, but he kept his eyes downfield until he found that open window as that crossing route finds and beats zone coverage.
The United States driving the plan. Providing regional support.
Here's Dak. This is caught by Blue. Gets it up to the 35. This is Shorts. Third down coming up.
These running backs today, they are so versatile. It doesn't matter if they're running it or, in this case, same principle applies on routes out of the backfield. You don't get somebody close to them, That throw is headed his way.
On third down, here's Williams. And his short game gets them a new set of downs.
That is your old school meat and potatoes call right there. Don't even think about throwing it. Just rush it ahead and get what you need.
They're awakening is what the infield field.
First and 10, Prescott. Completed over the middle. And in a blink, they are off to midfield before somebody manages to stop it. A nice gain of 13 yards as it brings up a first down.
We hear about basketball on grass so much more of the space and speed coming to the NFL game. That play's so indicative of it. Get that point guard in the open field and let him do his thing.
He had it for a moment, but a great defensive play. Jarring loose, incomplete.
Making it harder than it needs to be right there. Just get the catch first, guarantee some yards, and then worry about escaping the defenders and getting upfield.
Here is what John saw when he had a
Dak
big
off the play fake. Gets it into the middle. And they're going to haul him down to snap before the 30, right at the 31. It goes as a gain of 19 yards. And it'll be first down, Dallas. And for somebody who's been picked off like he has, Brock, you gotta admire his determination to keep attacking these coverages.
Yeah, that is risk. Right into double coverage yet again. But this guy's got what I call a high belief factor in himself.
They pick the hands off. Now Prescott. It's Pickens with a good down right. And he gets this down to the 13-yard line. Offense in the hurry up here.
Never seen that Jesus in a paper. Every picture you've ever been shown.
First down, here's Dak.
It was a white man with long field.
And he's tackled for a short gain.
Positive effort. He didn't go backwards. Didn't have a negative play. If there was a negative, he didn't get a whole lot done with your legs. Got to be more efficient now on second down.
This is 2nd and 6 coming up.
The structure of this world will collapse.
Takes the hand off. Now to throw. And he's going to score. Touchdown, Dallas.
The
The
pride is
Cowboys lengthen the lead at the end of the third.
Yeah.
George Pickens, the touchdown. His second scoring catch of the game. All right, partner, what do you think? Was that a design read, or did he just see space and he was reacting more on the old quarterback instinct there?
Yes. I think yes on both of them, and that play happens so fast that it really is instincts on both sides.
That one right down the middle. And the Cowboys grow their lead yet again.
That is not my interpretation. That is what it says. Now flip to Jeremiah chapter 14, verse 2. It says, Judah mourns, the cities languish, they wait for the land. Fire goes up to Jerusalem. The princes send their servants for water. They go to the cisterns but find no water. They return with their people dismayed and despairing. They cover their heads. And then it says this.
And he won't opt to bring this one out. He's content to keep it there in the end zone. They'll start their drive at the 35.
Tribes of Israel are described as black, not tan, not sunburned. The Hebrew word
The
used here is
Steelers with some very good field position as they get set, 1st and 10.
charred wood. This is not simply a ground. This is a
Rodgers off the play action. From connect right
Wait.
side, it's incomplete. No
Chapter
luck
9,
finding his
verse
receiver
6.
that time. And we'll see what they do here on 2nd down.
I think if you look up in phase in the defensive encyclopedia, that is a picture-perfect form of it. He was all over him in coverage, really forcing the incompletion.
I've always compared the
Had the window to go deep, but just couldn't make it happen. Now it's 3rd down.
You hear defensive coaches on every practice field we're on preach not giving up the big plays, especially at the NFL level. They'll need to stay vigilant because they're definitely going to use that receiver to take the lid off this defense again.
Chance here for one final play before the end of our quarter.
It says, I'm skidding.
Rodgers going to throw here, 3rd down. And as everyone winds up incomplete, it brings us to the end of the 3rd quarter. Thankfully, only one quarter to play now. We've reached the end of 3 in this lopsided affair. It'll be the Steelers with possession, but this game pretty one-sided at this point.
So why have you never heard this before? Why did no one teach you this in church? Why does every Christian movie, every Bible illustration, every painting in every museum show white people in the Middle East? Because there has been a system.
Down big, they're going to exhaust all options, it appears. The offense lining up to go for this. Desperation time here. He drops it. Another pick slips through their hands, but this time, Brock, they're still getting the football off the turnover on downs.
Hey, I am all for aggression. You get 4 downs, go for it. But I do have to wonder here, Kate, after being denied once again, is there going to be a trust level on that sidelines to go for it the next time they get this shot?
The Egyptians were meticulous.
You can't cover it much better than that really well-covered big play. There just simply was not a window for him to sneak that throw in.
Following the incompletion, we stay at the 35. It's 2nd and 10. Throwing again is dead. Steelers bringing pressure. No place to go. Down he goes. Pushes him back. 3rd down coming up.
Flat out a tremendous call. Perfect timing to blitz corner, and the result proves it. There was barely time for the QB to set himself up to throw, let alone look downfield for a target before he was absolutely decked by somebody who I think enjoyed that chance to rush the passer.
Here he goes, 3rd and long. A really good plays, Brock, made back-to-back behind the line to bring up 4th down.
Then there is the archaeological evidence from Israel itself. Archaeologists have found ancient skulls and skeletal remains in the region that was once the key.
Dallas sends its punching unit onto the field. And thankfully, he hasn't been needed until the final quarter. Punts away, and this one looking good. Angled this one for the sideline. Now this one, not much of a chance of it staying in the field of play. They'll mark it out at the 13-yard line.
These are the remains of the ancient Israel. And they were black.
Pittsburgh offense to the line. Here's 1st and 10.
Let's talk about DNA.
And they're going to throw. No spike. Trying to get off guard. Full guard that face line. They kept charging and got there to take him down. And the drive begins with a rough first step there. That's going to bring up 2nd down.
We've learned how valuable sacks and pass rush are in today's NFL. It's a bit surprising, isn't it, Kate, that that's their first sack of the game, but they found other ways to produce success on both sides of the ball, and they finally pick up a much-needed sack on that stat sheet.
On the move, headed right. Ooh, would have been a big gainer if they connected, but they could not. Instead, 3rd down coming up.
There's the importance of staying in phase as a defender. He was all over him in coverage, and that really did help force the incompletion.
Looking at a tough spot to punt it away. If this 3rd down is unsuccessful. Play fake. Here's Rodgers. And he's there to look over the pass and force a 4th down.
Complimentary defense right there. That pressure by the group up front, that leads to the incompletion and to the benefit of that secondary.
Black Africans. And then there is the testimony of ancient historians. Josephus, the 1st century Jewish historian who lived during the time of Jesus, described his...
Now can't blame him looking at that scoreboard, right? So might as well go for this on 4th down.
Tacitus, a Roman historian, described the field as having a swarthy appearance.
They'll go for it. Rodgers. And that's going to wind up incomplete as their gamble doesn't pay off. They're going to turn this one over on downs.
There was no way that defense was going to pass up on that opportunity. I dare to say that was the most energetic and frenzied we've seen them all game. I don't think they could believe the offense would go for it that deep in their own territory.
1st and goal. Here's Williams. And that play is brought to a halt, so they're going to say at the 5-yard line. They got a handful on the play. Now need a handful more. 5 yards on 2nd and goal.
Happened to the true Israelites. In this chapter, Moses is warning the children of Israel.
Another for Williams. And he's not going to make it. Made a little progress, but they saw him at the 2. 3 yards on the run. It's going to be 3rd and goal.
The history of black people in America and around the world with terrifying accuracy. Verse 15 says, however, if you do not obey the Lord your God and do not carefully follow all his commands and decrees I am giving you today, all these
Looks to run with Williams. And the scoring will never end. It's another touchdown. The Cowboys throw 6 more on the blowout. Javonte Williams, the touchdown. A lot of pressure on him in that moment, Brock. Find a way to score. Don't let it go to 4th and goal. And he finds a way to come through and gets in the end zone for 6.
How about the other side? Beating the defense right there as well. That group who was so close to pulling off the goal line stand, yet all that motivation wasn't enough to stop them on 3rd and goal.
That one splits the uprights. And the Cowboys continue adding on to that lead.
and sold into slavery. Mothers watch their babies ripped from their arms. Fathers watch their sons and daughters put the in action. It's disrupted. Verse 36. We become the king of kings.
Aubrey now to kick this one away.
That group of people has been more ridiculed, more mocked.
And he wasn't chancing a return there, putting it out on the back of the end zone for a touchback. Field position as the Steelers come up to it, 1st and 10. Now we give to Warren, coming right.
On a journey, I said you should never make a will. Now you look to yourselves for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves. To Egypt in
The
ships.
Steelers making the scoreboard look a touch better.
Bible is often symbolic of
Wow,
bondage
just
and
sensational speed from the back that time, Brock. He found a seam, got through it, and he was gone.
You know, it's one thing, Kate, to have singles hitters, right? And you love those and you appreciate guys that can get on base. But it's the home run hitters that are the difference makers, and what a big-time effort.
So before we get into text, there's contact up front. Will it make this field goal easier or harder?
slavery was legally abolished. They were still enslaved economically, socially.
All right, so with the penalty, a chance to go for 2 from the 1, or they could like to try a shorter kick.
Let me tell you why this matters. The people who were taken from West Africa were not random. Many of them were the descendants of Israelites who fled into Africa after the
Rogers has
destruction
his
of
guys set, looking to tack on 2 to that touchdown.
sacked the city, killed over a few Jews, destroyed the temple, and scattered the survivors. Many fled south into Africa.
All right, they're
They
going to throw for
definitely
it.
now Nigeria.
He's bringing that short throw.
They lived with her for over 1,000
The
years.
penalty gives them a little bit of an assist, and then they cash in easily for 2.
If they're going to stick you on the 1-yard line, you'd better be able to get it every single time. An unforced error defensively that the offense absolutely capitalizes on.
They've written records. They never forgot who they were. Slave ships came, and those descendants of Israel were rounded up, chained, and shipped across the Atlantic to be enslaved in a foreign land.
With time ticking away, they prepare for a must-get onside kick.
Even though people of Nigeria, traditions that trace their ancestors to the circumcision in the 8th. It's like it.
And it goes out of bounds, so that's going to snuff out the spark they were trying to build on here in the 4th.
They're hard-eating poor. These are not coincidences. These are remnants of a heritage that was never fully erased.
Well, Brock, you can't blame him with how tough it is to recover an onside kick anymore, but he did hit it before it went 10 yards, so they had to throw the flag. They're set up at the 35 now. Up the gut they go to Williams. Brock flag, first guy he met, no gain on that first down run.
They got some positive yards. That's a good thing. But too many plays like that, it just is too hard to pile together, get first downs against the better defenses in this league.
Prescott now off the play fake. Going deep here for the end zone. That one is incomplete. Couldn't hang on through the contact.
And that is teaching tape right there, Kate, for why you never give up on a play. Looked like a certain touchdown grab until he comes in and knocks the ball free right at the last moment.
Eastern Europe.
Handoff goes to Williams, running right. And they drop him just a couple yards beyond the line. It's 4th down now.
13. scientific studies have confirmed it. The Ashkenaz
Now Brandon Aubrey will try to knock it through for the Cowboys. From the right hash, a 49-yard look. And that one is not where he needed it to be. It is off and no good. And looking at the scoreboard, Brock, I think they can weather the miss there.
Something I would have never said 20 years ago, Kate, when I started this business, but it rattles through my big old noggin now. That miss really has an effect on fantasy football owners more than anybody else. Imagine the poor soul somewhere, anywhere, who ends up losing in fantasy this week, specifically because of that miss.
To the air on first down. Rodgers taking a deep shot here.
Now let me take you on this journey that will show you how the people of Israel, being a mighty
The
nation,
Steelers putting up points in a game decided. It's a DK Metcalf touchdown. His third through the air this game.
This is your history. It
I
all
know you
began
got mixed looks defensively. You just can't play all zone coverage, and sometimes you got to play man-to-man. But with the receiver, with that kind of speed, that is scary, and he just made him pay.
I will make you a great nation, and I will
Boswell
bless
to
you.
add the PAT.
I will make you, and you will be a blessing. That promise was passed
The
down
moon
to
after
his
splits
son.
the upright. And the Steelers take a molehill off that mountain as they still trail by 27.
Jacob came 12 sons, and those 12 sons became the 12 tribes of Israel.
Well, don't look up at the clock, everybody. That is certainly not their friend as they get set to try an onside kick.
Joseph and Benjamin. These 12 tribes were Egypt.
And the Cowboys managed to recover the football. Well, I guess they kind of had to do it here, Brock.
Yeah, it's called a have to. Yeah, kind of have to at this point in the game, huh?
Okay, but like most things in this game, it did not work out for them.
Yeah, let's face it, even if they do recover that, probably not going to find a way to win. But this is a time where you work on things, where you do build to the following week. You got to find a way to flush this because it's just not been their kind of game.
You set it down, score them at the 38.
400 years. Does that
I'm going
number
to pass
sound
it here. Schoonmaker's there to haul it in. And he hits that enemy 25-yard line before he is sent out. They get 13 on the pickup. And that's good for a Cowboys first down.
You want to become a quarterback's best friend, do that. Turn a short little gain, a short little pass into some yards after catch, and that quarterback will find you again.
All set now, first and 10.
After 400 years, Egypt God raised up Moses. Moses confronted Pharaoh, brought the 10 plagues, and led the Israelites out of bondage. This is the Exodus, the most famous story in the Bible. And when they left Egypt, they were not a small group.
Brock, look at this. He set up to throw it. Has him on the quick
Verse
hitter.
36
He's going
says
to be
there
brought
were
down here at
about
the 23-yard line.
besides
No
women
question,
and
Kate.
children.
Big plays down the seam or big tight ends if they in favor, but it's those time of catches right there. The short yardage, it gets good coverage, contested catches that really make
And
tight
then,
ends a
under the
locker room
leadership of
favorite.
Joshua, they entered the promised land, the land of Canaan, the land that is now called Israel and Palestine. They conquered the land, drove out the pagan nations, and
8
established
yards to go.
themselves
Let's see how they approach this second down.
as years. They were ruled by judges, leaders like Gideon and
Against the
Samson.
Sabres, running right. We call it one, maybe 2 yards at the end, Brock. It's third down.
But
You know, not a ton of yards, but still showing that commitment to the ground game. The type of run that keeps the defense from loading up in coverage and focusing entirely on that passing game.
2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 16. Your house and your kingdom will endure forever before me.
They come to the line here. This is third and 6.
Established forever. That is the promise God made to David. An eternal kingdom, an eternal throne. And that throne would one day belong to Jesus Christ, the son of David, the King of Kings. David's son
They
Solomon.
go right back to Sanders.
And under Solomon,
They're holding strong here. The defense gets him at the line. That's going to bring up fourth down. The Steelers calling their first time out. And they still have 2 available for them as we approach the end of this game.
Egypt, he had wisdom, he had wealth, he had power. He built the first temple in Jerusalem, the house of God. Nations came from all over the world to see these people. The Queen of Sheba traveled from Africa just to witness it. And when she saw Solomon's kingdom, she said, not even told them. But here is what most people do not know. Solomon had 700 wives, 300, and many of them were foreign women. Women from
Now
Egypt.
Brandon Aubrey will try to knock it through for the Cowboys. And they don't get the kickoff, and that's going to back them up 5 yards.
False gods with them. 1 Kings chapter 11 verse 4 says,
Can't get the playoffs in time, and I'm going to wager the call's going to come in much quicker, Brock, for this next snap.
and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father had been. God was angry, and because of Solomon's sin, God said he would tear the kingdom away from Solomon's son, but not all of it. For the sake of David, God said he would leave one tribe. So when Solomon died, the kingdom split. 10 tribes in the north formed the kingdom of Israel under Jeroboam. 2 tribes in the south, Judah and Benjamin, formed the kingdom of Judah under Rehoboam, Solomon's son. This happened around 930 BC.
And they don't get the kickoff, and that's going to back them up 5 yards.
The northern
A little
kingdom
slow
of
to
Israel
operate the offense, and they're going to back it up as a result of that penalty.
They fell into idolatry. They worshipped Baal. They set up golden calves. They ignored the prophets that God sent to warn them. So in 722 BC, God allowed the Assyrians to invade. The Assyrian Empire came in like a flood and conquered the northern kingdom. They took the 10 tribes captive and scattered them across the Assyrian Empire. Those 10 tribes were never seen again as a unified group. They became known as the lost tribes of Israel. But they were not lost. They were scattered, and many of them migrated south into Africa. The southern kingdom of Judah lasted a little longer, but they also fell into sin. They also ignored the prophets. Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, they all warned Judah to repent, but the people would not listen. So in 586 BC, God allowed the Babylonians to invade. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon destroyed Jerusalem, burned the temple to the ground, and took the people of Judah into captivity in Babylon. This is known as the Babylonian exile, and it lasted 70 years. But then something amazing happened. God raised up a Persian king named Cyrus, and Cyrus issued a decree allowing the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. This is recorded in the book of Ezra. A remnant returned. They rebuilt the temple. They rebuilt the walls under Nehemiah. And for a few hundred years, they tried to follow God again. But they were never fully independent. They were under Persian rule, then Greek rule under Alexander the Great, then Roman rule. And that brings us to the time of Jesus. When Jesus was born, the land of Israel was occupied by Rome. The Jewish people were under the boot of a foreign empire. They were waiting for the Messiah. They were waiting for a king who would free them from Roman oppression and restore the kingdom of Israel. But when Jesus came, he did not come as a political king. He came as a suffering servant. He came to die for the sins of the world, and the religious leaders rejected him. They handed him over to the Romans, and in 33 AD, Jesus Christ was crucified on a cross outside the walls of Jerusalem. But 3 days later, he rose from the dead, and before he ascended into heaven, he gave his disciples a mission. Acts chapter 1, verse 8. You will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, and in all Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. The gospel began to spread. Jews and Gentiles began to believe in Jesus. The church was born, and for about 40 years, the Jewish Christians and the non-believing Jews lived side by side in Jerusalem. But then in 70 AD, everything changed. The Romans had enough of the Jewish rebellions. The emperor sent his general Titus with a massive army to crush Jerusalem once and for all. They surrounded the city. They laid siege for months. People inside the city were starving. Mothers were eating their own children just to survive. And then the Romans broke through. They slaughtered over 1 million Jews. They burned the temple. They tore it down stone by stone, just as Jesus had prophesied in Matthew chapter 24, verse 2. Not one stone here will be left on another. Everyone will be thrown down. The surviving Jews were either killed, enslaved, or scattered. This is called the diaspora. the great scattering, and it was the beginning of the end for the Jewish people as a visible nation. For the next 2,000 years they had no homeland. They were scattered across Europe, the Middle East, North Africa, and eventually sub-Saharan Africa. Now here is the part that most history books will not tell you. Many of the Jews who survived the destruction of Jerusalem fled south. They went to Egypt. They went to Ethiopia. They went to the kingdoms of Cush and Nubia. They settled in East Africa. And over the next several hundred years, they migrated west across the continent. They traveled through the Sahel region. They settled in the great African empires of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. And they intermarried with the local populations. But they kept some of their customs. They kept their identity alive through oral tradition. Fast forward to the 15th century. European explorers began arriving on the coast of West Africa. The Portuguese, the Spanish, the Dutch, the British, the French. They were not there to explore. They were there to exploit. They discovered that the African kingdoms had gold, ivory, and most valuable of all, human beings. And so began the transatlantic slave trade, the largest forced migration in human history. Over 12 million Africans were captured, chained, and shipped across the Atlantic Ocean, packed like cargo in the holds of ships, stripped of their names, their languages, their religions, their identities. And among those 12 million were the descendants of the Israelites, the people who had fled Jerusalem, the people who had kept their traditions alive in secret. They were taken from the Slave Coast, the Gold Coast, the Bight of Benin. They were taken from the very regions where the tribes of Israel had settled centuries earlier, and they were brought to the Americas, to the Caribbean, to Brazil, to the southern United States, and there they were enslaved for 400 years. 400 years, just like Egypt, just like the prophecy said. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. The Lord will send you back in ships to Egypt on a journey I said you should never make again. They were bought and sold like cattle. They were beaten. They were raped. They were lynched. Their families were torn apart. Their children were sold away. They were forbidden to read, forbidden to write, forbidden to practice their religion. Everything that made them who they were was taken from them. And when slavery finally ended, they were not given reparations. They were not given land. They were not given equality. They were given segregation, Jim Crow, sharecropping, mass incarceration, systemic racism. The curse continued. And all the while the world was being told a different story. The world was being told that the Israelites were white, that the Jews were European, that the people of the Bible had pale skin and blue eyes, and the black man was told he had no history, no heritage, no connection to anything great. He was told he was cursed. He was told he was the descendant of Ham, cursed to be a servant of servants. A lie that was used to justify slavery, colonization, and oppression for centuries. But here is the truth. You are not the descendants of Ham. You are the descendants of Shem. You are the seed of Abraham. You are the children of Israel. And your awakening is what they fear the most. Now let me show you how they hid this truth from you, how they systematically erased your identity and replaced it with a lie. Because this was not an accident. This was a plan, a deliberate, calculated, multi-generational conspiracy to steal your heritage and give it to someone else. And it started in Rome. In the year 325 AD, the Roman Emperor Constantine called a council in the city of Nicaea. This became known as the Council of Nicaea. And at this council, Constantine and a group of bishops decided what Christianity would look like for the next 2,000 years. They decided which books would be in the Bible and which books would be left out. They decided what doctrines would be considered orthodox and what would be considered heresy. And most importantly, they began the process of separating Christianity from its Jewish roots. You see, in the beginning, Christianity was a Jewish movement. Jesus was Jewish. His disciples were Jewish. The early church was made up of Jews and God-fearing Gentiles who had been grafted into the Commonwealth of Israel. But after the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, a rift began to form. Gentile Christians started to distance themselves from Jewish Christians. They did not want to be associated with a people who had just been defeated and scattered by Rome. And so they started teaching that the church had replaced Israel, that God was done with the Jewish people, that the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob now belonged to the Gentile church. This is called replacement theology, and it became the dominant view in the Roman Catholic Church. The Jews were no longer the chosen people. The church was. And since the church was now centered in Rome, and Rome was in Europe, it was the Europeans who became the new Israel in the minds of the people. But there was a problem. If you are going to convince people that Europeans are the new chosen people, you have to make the original chosen people look like Europeans too. You cannot have a black Jesus. You cannot have black apostles. You cannot have black patriarchs and prophets. Because if people see that the heroes of the Bible were black, they might start asking questions. They might start realizing that the true descendants of those heroes are also black. So the image had to be changed. And that is exactly what happened during the Renaissance. In the 1400s and 1500s, European artists began painting biblical scenes, and every single person in those paintings was white. Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel. He painted Adam, Noah, Moses, King David, all with European features. Leonardo da Vinci painted the Last Supper. Every single one of the 12 apostles was white. And when they painted Jesus, they used a man named Cesare Borgia as the model. Cesare Borgia was the son of Pope Alexander VI. He was an Italian nobleman. He had long hair, a beard, and pale skin. And that image became the image of Jesus that the whole world knows today. But it was a lie. Jesus did not look like Cesare Borgia. Jesus was a Middle Eastern Jew from Nazareth. He had the appearance of the people in that region. Dark skin, dark hair, Afro-Asiatic features. But the image was changed. And that image was spread all over the world through paintings, through sculptures, through stained glass windows in churches, and eventually through movies and television. Hollywood continued the lie. Every Jesus movie ever made has cast a white man as Jesus, from Jeffrey Hunter in King of Kings to Jim Caviezel in The Passion of the Christ. Every Moses, every David, every Paul, every apostle has been played by a white actor, and the result is that billions of people around the world now believe that the people of the Bible were white. They believe that God's chosen people were Europeans, and they believe that black people have no connection to the Bible whatsoever. But it was not just the images that were changed. The doctrine was changed too. The Catholic Church, and later the Protestant churches, began teaching that the Jews had been cursed by God for rejecting Jesus. They taught that the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD was proof that God had abandoned the Jewish people forever, and they used that teaching to justify centuries of anti-Semitism, pogroms, expulsions, forced conversions, and eventually the Holocaust. But here is the irony. The people they were persecuting, the European Jews, were not even the original Israelites. They were converts. The Ashkenazi Jews, who make up the majority of the Jewish population today, are descended from the Khazars. The Khazars were a Turkic people who lived in the region between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, in what is now Ukraine, southern Russia, and Kazakhstan. In the 8th century AD, the Khazar king and his nobles converted to Judaism for political reasons. Over the centuries, the Khazars mixed with other populations in Eastern Europe. They became the Ashkenazi Jews, and when they migrated westward into places like Poland, Germany, and Russia, they brought Judaism with them. But they were not Semitic. They were not descended from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They were Europeans who had adopted the Jewish religion. This is not a fringe theory. This is documented history. But in 1948, after the horrors of the Holocaust, the world felt guilty, and so the United Nations voted to create the modern state of Israel. They gave the land of Palestine to the European Jews, the Ashkenazi Jews, the people who were living there, The Palestinians, many of whom were the actual descendants of the ancient Israelites who had stayed in the land and converted to Christianity and later Islam, those people were driven out. Over 700,000 Palestinians were displaced in what they call the Nakba, the catastrophe. So let me say this plainly. The state of Israel that exists today is not the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. It is a political creation. It was established by European Jews who are not the biological descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The true descendants are scattered. Many of them are black. Many of them are in Africa. Many of them are in the Americas. And they have been told for centuries that they are nobody. But that lie is being exposed. And the enemy knows it. That is why there has been such a coordinated effort to suppress this truth. That is why anyone who speaks about the true identity of the Israelites is labeled a conspiracy theorist, a radical, an extremist. That is why the so-called Black Hebrew Israelite movement is constantly attacked in the media. Because if this truth goes mainstream, if millions of people wake up and realize who they really are, the entire power structure collapses. The entire narrative collapses. And that is exactly what is happening right now. People are waking up. The internet has made it impossible to hide the truth. You can go online right now and find ancient Egyptian paintings showing black Hebrews. You can find DNA studies showing the connection between West Africans and the ancient Israelites. You can read the testimonies of historians like Josephus and Tacitus, who described the Jews as dark-skinned. You can read the Bible for yourself and see the descriptions of Solomon, Moses, and Jesus that do not match the images you were shown in Sunday school. The awakening has begun, and it cannot be stopped. Now let me show you how the education system and the political establishment have worked together to keep you from discovering who you are. Because erasing your identity was not just about changing paintings and rewriting theology. It was about controlling what you are taught, what you are allowed to say, and what you are allowed to believe. Think about what you were taught in school about Africa. You were taught that Africa was a dark continent, a place of savages and primitive tribes, a place with no history, no civilization, no contribution to the world. You were taught that Africans were rescued from their backward ways by European colonizers who brought them Christianity, education, and civilization. That is the narrative. That is what has been drilled into the minds of every child, black and white, for generations. But that is a lie. Africa was the birthplace of civilization. The ancient Egyptians were Africans. The kingdom of Kush, the kingdom of Aksum, the empire of Mali, the Songhai Empire, the kingdom of Zimbabwe. These were advanced civilizations with trade networks, universities, legal systems, and architectural marvels that rivaled anything in Europe. Timbuktu in Mali had one of the greatest libraries in the world in the 14th century. The University of Sankore taught mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and theology to thousands of students. But you were never taught that in school. Why not? Because if you knew that Africa had great kingdoms, great scholars, great wealth, you might start asking how the people from those kingdoms ended up as slaves. You might start asking who those people really were. And you might start connecting the dots. You might realize that the people who were enslaved were not primitive savages. They were the descendants of the Israelites. They were people with a history, with a heritage, with a covenant relationship with the Most High God. So instead, the textbooks erase Africa. They start history in ancient Greece and Rome. They skip over Egypt or they whitewash it. They teach you that the Egyptians were not black, even though Egypt is in Africa. They show you pictures of Cleopatra, who was Greek, and they ignore the 29 dynasties before her that were black African. They tell you that the pyramids could not have been built by Africans, so they must have been built by aliens. Anything to avoid giving credit to black people. And when they do talk about slavery, they sanitize it. They call it the peculiar institution. They teach that it ended with the Civil War, as if everything was fine after that. They do not teach about the convict leasing system that replaced slavery. They do not teach about the Tulsa Race Massacre, where a thriving black community called Black Wall Street was burned to the ground by a white mob. They do not teach about redlining, about housing discrimination, about the GI Bill that excluded black veterans. They do not teach the full truth, because the full truth would reveal that the system was designed to keep black people oppressed. And that oppression was not random. It was targeted. It was prophesied. Now let us talk about the academic scholars. The so-called experts who control what is considered legitimate history and what is considered fringe. If you are a black scholar and you start researching the Israelite identity of African people, you will be shut down. Your work will be dismissed as Afrocentrism. You will be accused of trying to steal Jewish identity. You will be marginalized, defunded, and blacklisted from academic institutions. But if you are a white scholar and you write a book claiming that Europeans are the lost tribes of Israel, that theory is taken seriously. British Israelism, the belief that the British people are descended from the 10 lost tribes, was widely accepted in the 1800s and is still taught in some circles today. Christian identity movements in America teach that white Europeans are the true Israelites and that Jews are imposters. That is considered theology. But when black people say the same thing, backed by scripture, backed by DNA evidence, backed by historical records, it is called a cult. Why the double standard? Because the establishment cannot allow black people to reclaim their identity. If black people realize they are the true Hebrews, the true chosen people, the true children of the promise, then the whole system loses its power. White supremacy loses its foundation. The modern state of Israel loses its legitimacy. The entire Western narrative about history, religion, and race collapses. So they have to keep the lie alive, and they do it through control. They control the universities, they control the publishing houses, they control the media, they control the narrative. And anyone who challenges that narrative is attacked. Look at what happened to Kanye West. In 2022, Kanye, who now goes by Ye, started talking publicly about black people being the real Jews. He wore a White Lives Matter shirt to make a statement about the hypocrisy of racial narratives. He said that the Jewish elite control the entertainment industry and have been exploiting black artists for decades. And what happened? He was cancelled. His bank accounts were closed. His business deals were terminated. He was labeled mentally ill and anti-Semitic. Now, did Kanye say some things that were poorly worded? Yes. Did he express frustration in ways that were inflammatory? Yes. But the core of what he was saying, that black people have been systematically oppressed, and that there is a hidden history about their identity, that part was true. But the truth does not matter when it threatens the power structure. So they silenced him. They made an example out of him. They sent a message to every other black public figure. Do not talk about this. Do not ask these questions, or you will be destroyed. The same thing happened to Kyrie Irving. The NBA star shared a link to a documentary that explored the history of black Hebrews. He did not even make a statement. He just shared a link, and he was immediately labeled anti-Semitic. He was suspended from the Brooklyn Nets. He was forced to apologize. He was required to meet with Jewish leaders and undergo sensitivity training. All for sharing information. All for asking questions. This is not about protecting Jewish people from hate. This is about protecting a lie from being exposed. Because if people start watching that documentary, if people start reading those books, if people start studying scripture for themselves, they will realize that everything they have been taught is backwards. They will realize that the oppressed are actually the chosen, and the so-called chosen are actually the oppressors. And that brings us to the biggest conspiracy of all, the creation of the modern state of Israel and the Zionist movement. Now, before you shut down, hear me out. I am not talking about Jewish people as individuals. I am talking about a political ideology. Zionism is the belief that Jewish people have a right to return to the land of Israel and establish a Jewish state. That ideology was pushed by European Jews, primarily Ashkenazi Jews, in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Theodor Herzl, the founder of modern Zionism, was not motivated by religious belief. He was motivated by the rise of anti-Semitism in Europe and the desire for Jews to have their own nation where they would be safe. After World War II and the Holocaust, the world felt immense guilt. So in 1948, the United Nations voted to partition Palestine and create the State of Israel. The land was given to European Jews, most of whom had never set foot in the Middle East, and the people who were living there, the Palestinians, were driven out. Over 700,000 Palestinians became refugees. Their homes were taken, their land was taken, their villages were destroyed, and they have been living in exile ever since. Now here is the question nobody wants to ask. Who were the Palestinians? The narrative you have been told is that they were Arabs who moved into the land after the Jews left, but that is not true. Many Palestinians are the descendants of the ancient Israelites who never left the land. After the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, not everyone was exiled. Many Jews stayed in the land. Over the centuries, some converted to Christianity. Later, some converted to Islam, but they stayed. They are the indigenous people of that land. They carry the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So when the European Jews came and claimed the land, they were not returning home. They were colonizers. And the people they displaced were the actual descendants of the ancient Israelites. That is the bitter irony. The true children of Israel are the ones being oppressed by the state that calls itself Israel. The true Semitic people are the ones being called terrorists and driven from their homes. And the world celebrates it as the fulfillment of prophecy. But it is not prophecy. It is politics. It is empire. It is the same game that has been played for thousands of years. The powerful take the land. They rewrite the history. They claim divine right. And they crush anyone who challenges them. And the Western governments support it because it serves their interests. The United States gives billions of dollars in military aid to Israel every year. Why? Because Israel is a strategic ally in the Middle East. It is a foothold for Western power in a region rich with oil and resources. It has nothing to do with God's will. It has everything to do with geopolitics. But they wrap it in biblical language to make Christians support it. They say, we must support Israel because they are God's chosen people. But they are not. They are imposters. And the real chosen people are suffering while the world cheers. Now, I want to be very clear about something. I am not against Jewish people. I am not against any group of people. We are all made in the image of God. We are all equal under God. This is not about division. This is not about hate. This is about truth. And the truth is that a massive deception has been perpetrated on the world for centuries. And that deception has caused unspeakable suffering for millions of people. And it is still causing suffering today. So when I tell you that black people are the true Israelites, I am not trying to take something away from anyone. I am trying to restore something that was stolen. I am trying to give back an identity, a heritage, a sense of purpose and destiny that was ripped away. Because when you know who you are, when you know whose you are, you cannot be controlled anymore. You cannot be manipulated. You cannot be oppressed. And that is what terrifies the enemy. Now let us connect all of this to what is happening right now. Because everything I have just shown you, the hidden identity of the Israelites, the political creation of modern Israel, the control of information and education, all of it is setting the stage for the fulfillment of prophecy. Not the fake prophecy that is being sold by mainstream Christianity. The real prophecy. The one written in the book of Daniel, over 2,500 years ago. Turn to Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. This is one of the most important verses in the entire Bible when it comes to understanding the end times. It says, he will confirm a covenant with many for 1/7. In the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering, and at the temple he will set up an abomination that causes desolation, until the end that is decreed is poured out on him. Now let me break this down because this is critical. The he in this verse is referring to a future world leader. The Bible calls him the man of lawlessness, the son of perdition, the Antichrist. And this verse tells us exactly what he is going to do. He will confirm a covenant with many, not create a new covenant, confirm one. That word confirm in the original Hebrew is gabar. It means to strengthen, to make firm, to give power to something that already exists. So this leader is not going to invent a peace deal out of nowhere. He is going to take an existing framework and make it official. He is going to bring together multiple nations and solidify an agreement that has been in the works for years. And that brings us to Donald Trump. On January 15, 2025, just days ago, a historic ceasefire agreement was announced between Israel and Hamas. It was brokered by the United States under the leadership of Donald Trump, who was just inaugurated as president for his second term. This agreement involves not just Israel and Hamas, but multiple nations. The United States is driving the plan. Egypt and Qatar are serving as mediators. Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Jordan, and even the European Union are involved. This is a covenant with many, just like the prophecy says. And here is what makes it even more significant. This agreement did not come out of nowhere. It is built on the foundation of the Abraham Accords, which Donald Trump orchestrated during his first term in 2020. The Abraham Accords were peace agreements between Israel and several Arab nations, including the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco. These were historic deals that normalized relations between Israel and countries that had been enemies for decades. And they were religious agreements, not just political ones. The clearest evidence of this is the Abrahamic family house. This is an actual building complex in Abu Dhabi, in the United Arab Emirates. It contains a mosque, a synagogue, and a church, all side by side under one roof. The idea is to symbolize the unity of the three Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It is a physical manifestation of the Abraham Accords, and it is exactly the kind of interfaith, one world religion system that the Bible warns about in the last days. Now, the ceasefire agreement that was just announced is not a new deal. It is the continuation and confirmation of the Abraham Accords. Donald Trump himself posted on Truth Social immediately after the agreement was made public. He said, and I quote, "This will lead to strong, durable, and everlasting peace. Everlasting peace." Let that sink in. Now turn to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3. While people are saying peace and safety, destruction will come on them suddenly, as labor pains on a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. The Bible warns that when the world starts celebrating peace and safety, that is when sudden destruction comes. And Donald Trump just used the exact phrase that Scripture warns us about. Everlasting peace. This is not a coincidence. This is prophecy being fulfilled right before our eyes. But there is more. Daniel says that this leader will confirm a covenant for 1-7. In biblical prophecy, 1-7 means 7 years. So this covenant is supposed to last for 7 years. And then, in the middle of the 7 years, after 3.5 years, the leader will break the covenant. He will put an end to sacrifice and offering. That means there has to be a temple. There has to be a place where sacrifices are being performed. And that means the third temple in Jerusalem has to be built. For almost 2,000 years, there has been no temple in Jerusalem. The second temple was destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD. The site where the temple stood, the Temple Mount, is now controlled by Jordan. And on top of it sits the Dome of the Rock, one of the holiest sites in Islam. So for decades, rebuilding the temple seemed impossible. But things are changing. Israel has been preparing. They have trained priests. They have made the priestly garments. They have created the temple vessels. Everything is ready. The only thing missing is permission to build. And now, with this new peace agreement, that permission might be coming. Reports are surfacing that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, known as MBS, has hinted that Arab nations might allow the construction of the third temple in exchange for a comprehensive peace deal and a solution to the Palestinian situation. And that is exactly what this ceasefire agreement is beginning to provide. So let me lay this out clearly. Donald Trump has brokered a peace deal involving Israel and many nations. That deal is based on the Abraham Accords, which laid the religious and political groundwork. Trump is using the language of everlasting peace, which the Bible warns is a sign of deception. And this deal could pave the way for the third temple to be built, which would fulfill the next part of Daniel's prophecy. Everything is lining up, but here is where it gets even more chilling. The prophecy says that the leader who confirms this covenant will eventually reveal himself as the Antichrist. In the middle of the 7 years, he will break the covenant, stop the sacrifices, and set up the abomination of desolation in the temple. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 4 describes this moment. He will oppose and will exalt himself over everything that is called God or is worshipped, so that he sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God. This leader will enter the temple and declare himself to be God. That is the ultimate blasphemy. That is the moment when the Great Tribulation begins. And from that point, the final 3.5 years of human history will unfold. A time of suffering, persecution, and judgment unlike anything the world has ever seen. Now, many people are asking, is Donald Trump the Antichrist? I am not here to tell you definitively yes or no, but I am here to show you the signs. The Bible gives us clear markers to identify this figure, and Donald Trump fits many of them. Let me walk you through them. First, Daniel chapter 7 says the Antichrist will arise from the fourth beast, which represents the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire fell, but its legacy lives on in Western civilization. The United States, the European Union, NATO, these are all examples of the Roman system. Donald Trump is a product of that system. He is a Western leader with global influence. That fits. Second, Daniel says this leader will uproot 3 kings. In his first term, Donald Trump played a role in the political upheaval of multiple nations. He influenced regime changes. He pulled out of international agreements. He disrupted the established order. Whether that counts as uprooting 3 kings remains to be seen, but the pattern is there. Third, the Antichrist will have the eyes of a man and speak boastful words. Donald Trump is known for his bold, brash, and often arrogant rhetoric. He has said things like, "I alone can fix it. Nobody knows more than me about anything." His entire brand is built on self-promotion and grandiosity. That fits the description perfectly. Fourth, the Antichrist will deceive through peace. He will not conquer through war, but through diplomacy. And that is exactly what Trump is doing. He is being hailed as a peacemaker. The Abraham Accords were celebrated around the world. This ceasefire deal is being called historic. He is positioning himself as the man who can bring peace to the Middle East, the most volatile region on earth. But the Bible warns that this peace is a lie. It is a trap, and it will lead to destruction. Fifth, there is Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law. Kushner was the architect of the Abraham Accords. He has deep ties to Israel. And here is a detail that has raised eyebrows among prophecy watchers. For a time, Kushner's real estate company owned a building at 666 Fifth Avenue in New York City. The number 666, Revelation chapter 13 verse 18 says, "This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man." That number is 666. Is that a coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe it is a sign. And then there is Trump's map for Gaza. He recently released a proposal that divides Gaza into 12 zones of control. 12 zones. That number is significant. Israel had 12 tribes. Could this be a symbolic reference to the restoration of the 12 tribes under a new order? Some believe it is. Trump has also said publicly that this deal could solve what he called the catastrophe of 3,000 years ago. 3,000 years ago was the time of King Solomon. After Solomon's death, the kingdom of Israel was divided into 2, Israel in the north and Judah in the south. The 12 tribes were split, and they have never been fully reunited. Is Trump suggesting that his plan will reunite them? If so, that is a bold claim, and it ties directly into end times prophecy. Now, I want to be clear. I am not saying Trump is definitely the Antichrist. What I am saying is that he is playing a role in the fulfillment of prophecy. Whether he is the final figure or just a precursor, time will tell. But the signs are undeniable. The covenant with many is being confirmed. The stage is being set for the third temple. The world is being conditioned to accept a global leader who promises peace. And that peace will be the greatest deception in history. Because Revelation chapter 6 describes the Antichrist as riding on a white horse with a bow but no arrows. That means he will conquer not through war but through the appearance of peace. He will